Hello crafters, I'm JanB and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. The images are from the You've Got Style stamp set, but before I start I'd like to tell you what led up to this particular design. On my blog the other day I shared this card. As you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than the normal size that I do. This is a 7x5, and I said that I had based this on Inchies. Now I don't know if anybody remembers Inchies, but they were popular about 7 or 8 years ago, I imagine, and they looked something like these. They're 3/16 of an inch thick. That's an inch square, that one. 1.5 inches square, 2 inches square, and that's 1 inch by 2 inch. And I've never actually did it. As you can see, I bought the inches but never actually did anything with them, so I don't know whether you meant to just block like all the inch ones together and then stamp on it, or whether you stamp the way I'm going to do it and then cut them. I don't know how it was done. If anybody else out there remembers Inchies and knows how it was done at the time, I'd really love to know. But that's why I call my cards Inchies, because this is what these are, Inchies. I never actually wanted to use them once I found out how thick they were, because I thought it was too much dimension on the cards. Anyway, get back to the story. Once I'd posted this on my blog, I was asked if I'd do a video. And I'm always happy to make videos if I'm requested to do so, if I can. So I had another go, made another card. This time I put these up on dimensionals to give it a bit of height. There we go. This one I'd stuck down onto the actual cardstock, but it would have taken me too long to do a card this size for a video, because there's 12 squares here, and whatever I do, like adhering, cutting, putting glue dots on, dimensionals on, etc, etc, I've got to do it 12 times. So I decided to cut it down, and the first one I did was this one, but without the cat, and then I thought that looked rather bland. Added the cat, I liked that, but it still looked a bit bland, so I decided it needed a bit of pattern around the side there. So then I did this one, which I was a lot happier with the DSP round here. That shows up beautiful, really like that. But what I wanted to know was how would this one look if I did it with some DSP behind it, and that to me is it. Lovely. So this is the card that we're going to make. The other thing I want to show you is the sentiment on all of the cards that I've just shown you. It's been stamped on ribbon, so I want to show you that as well. We're going to, or at least, yes, we're going to use different cardstock, different colour, and I'm going to give you the card sizes first. So to start off with, the card base is Soft Sky, and it measures 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, scored and folded at 4 1/8, which is 21 by 14.5 centimetres, scored and folded at 10.5 centimetres. Then 2 pieces of Very Vanilla, both which measure 4 inches by 5 5/8 inches, which is 10.25 by 14.25 centimetres. Then a piece of DSP which measures 3 7/8 inches by 5.5 inches, which is 10 centimetres by 14 centimetres. The DSP that I'm using here and this one are both from our new Bundle of Love Specialty Designer Series paper, and the beauty of this is on the other side you've got the same design but it's in gold. That's got the same design as that on the other side, but it's in gold. It's really beautiful, really, really lovely. So you need that. Then you need a piece of vanilla, Very Vanilla cardstock, which measures 2 1/4 inches by 3 3/8 inches, which is 5.8 by 8.7 centimetres. You need a scrap for the cat, if you want to do the cat separately like this, you will be able to stamp the cat on here if you wanted to, as opposed to that. If you're really anti fussy cutting, you'd probably want to do it on that one, but I'll explain that when I get there. If you want the cat put on dimensionals on top, then you'll need a scrap for that, and then you will need 6 squares that measure 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches, which is 3.2 by 3.2 centimetres. So the first thing we do is we're going to do our stamping. So I need the lining for inside the card. I need that for the lady and that for my fussy cut cat. So the stamp set, as I said, is You've Got Style, and it's this one, which I think is just absolutely fabulous with these characters on, and that's where the cat comes from too. Really lovely. And before I forget to tell you also, the Happy Birthday that I'll be using for the ribbon is this one, and it comes from Big on Birthdays. So first of all, I'll do the cat. I want that one and that one. And for this, I'm going to be using our Archival Basic Black ink. So this one, I'm just going to stamp in the corner. And then one on my scrap. And then for my lady, I'm just going to stamp her right in the centre. Beautiful. Right, I will come back to the ribbon towards the end. So first of all, how did I colour the cat? The really first thing that I did was I took my basic black marker pen. If you saw my last video, you know I have a tendency to change these eyes. Let me just bring this up close so you can see it. This is what the eyes, cat's eyes, look like to start off with. I'll show you what they look like once I've finished with them. In fact, if I put that one side by side, you can see them both. Then you can decide which one you like. I think this one makes her look as if she's smiling a bit more. But I'm not going to actually be doing this one because I've already coloured this one and cut it out by hand, and it's sitting over there waiting for me. But I will colour this one so that you can see what I do. Now I want the cat to be a light grey. I like to think that maybe it's something like a Persian. So I'm using my watercolour pencils, and this is the basic grey, and I'm just going to go over very, very lightly the inside of the ears and the nose and the collar. I'm going to be doing in pink. Normally when I use watercolour pencils, I go over them with a blender pen, but I don't if I'm using our normal Whisper White or Very Vanilla paper. It does take it, but you have to be very careful. Plus the fact that when you use a blender pen, it tends to bring the colour up a little bit more definitely, which is the whole point of water pencils, but that's not what I'm looking for with the cat. I just want it to be a nice light grey. There we go. Now for the ears, the nose and the collar, I'm using Powder Pink, one of our new in colours. I'll bring them both up close in a minute, this one and the unpainted one. If I show you the unpainted one, you can see how much grey I've got onto the cat. Just go over that 2 or 3 times just to make it come up a bit darker. There we go. Right, so I'm happy with that. Let's get that other cat back, because it's very, very light grey. You see, it's given it just enough colour without too much. So that bit's finished, that's fine. Let's pop that one over there. Now I need to colour this lady, and I think the way she's dressed, any colours go. I doubt if she's coordinated her colours whatsoever. But let me just show you, basically, I'm not going to sit here colouring all of it. Again, I've already got one ready there, but I would just like to explain. First of all, for her hair, with a hairstyle like that, she's got to be grey. So I'm using Smoky Slate. There we go, that looks good, I like that. For the rest of it, it really is entirely up to you. I will follow this one that I've got here. I gave her pumpkin pie boots. She's stylish enough to make sure that her boots and her handbag match. If you don't like colouring, this is not the stamp set for you. But colouring like this, I could spend hours doing it. Okay, so then I carried on colouring all the bits in. For her face and her hands, again, I went to my Watercolour Pencils, and this time I chose the Calypso Coral, which tends to be a very good pencil if you're doing skin tones. Again, I just coloured very lightly because I don't want any real colour, but just enough to give her a nice bit of character. And then I also do her hands as well. Okay, then I work my way right the way through. Did I finish doing her? No, I didn't. Oh, that's the one that I've done for... Yeah, I've done her face as well. So this is the one that I finished painting, colouring, and this is the one that I'm going to move on to the next step with. Okay, so if I just bring this up close to you to show you what I've done. As far as I remember, the flowers on the coat are Fresh Fig. The coat itself is Wisteria Wonder. The dress, not quite sure. Oh, it might be that one. What's that? Flirty Flamingo. Oh, Sweet Sugar Plum. But there you go. Choose any colours that you like. She looks great as she is, even though the colours are all not quite what I would wear. So once you've finished colouring like that, you need to bring your trimmer in. Now, the secret of making these work is if you use the same proportions that I've used on here, you could do one of these cards as well. Because what I've done is it's 2 1/4 inches across here, which means I'm going to cut my squares in 1 1/8 of an inch, and likewise that's 3 3/8 inches down, so I can cut 1 1/8 there. Likewise on here, these are 1 1/8 by 1 1/8 square. So whichever size you want to do, make sure your image is divisible by whatever size you want. You may decide that you want 1 inch squares. It keeps it a lot simpler than having 1 1/8. But whatever you use, just make sure that your width and your depth is divisible by the size that you want. And then you can make any card size you want. The principle of what I'm doing just doesn't change. So what I'm going to do now is I want to cut this down at 1 1/8. So there's 1 1/8 over that side, so I'm going to line her up there, which means because she's 2 1/4, it should measure up at 1 1/8 here as well. Okay, so once that's down there, just one slice, turn her sideways, line up at 1 1/8 on here on the right hand side, slice. I've done so many of these now that I know how the jigsaw fits together, but you may want to keep the pieces in order. In fact, let me put them down this side, then I think you can see them. That's it. Let's just move over a little bit. It gets more difficult when you do one of the larger cards and you've got 12 squares there. So that one comes here. Just keep on lining up at 1 1/8. So that's that done with. Now if you bring your squares in, and then you need to adhere these onto these, and I'm using Tombow. Just going to put all the glue on first, and then I'll put them onto the blue squares. I have to tell you a little story. I had a fright while I was getting the video set up, or it's getting set up for the video. I heard somebody downstairs, and I'm in the house on my own. So without thinking, I went down there to investigate, and I found a bird had fallen down the chimney and was in absolute panic in the sitting room. Left me feeling quite a bit shaky, but I think he was shaking too. But eventually I opened both the sitting room windows and got a cushion and ushered him towards the window. And as soon as he saw that, that was it, he was off. But he has made quite a mess in the sitting room, I have to say. It's quite a big bird too. Well, I say a big bird. A bit bigger than a blackbird. I think it was probably a baby crow or a rook or something. Let's see if I've cut that a bit short. But at least he flew off, he was alright. Doesn't look as if I've cut that very well at all, does it? That one's a bit short and that one's a bit big. Fortunately, I'm not going to be using these ones. But what you need to do next is on the back of all of these, again, so that I could save a bit of time. Oh, here we go. I don't know if you've tried our new mini dimensionals, but they are superb. 4 little ones fit on here brilliantly. Otherwise, I mean, what would you have done with one? Probably cut them in half, I suppose, to cut that one in half of that and one in half of that. But with these small ones, absolutely superb. So you need to do that to all 4, all 6 rather, which is what I've done over here. Okay. All the colouring has been done in the same order. So I'm going to take these 2 pieces and adhere them together, and then I'm going to show you how I did that. As you know, I do struggle with straight lines, and then to try and get 6 squares lined up together with a gap in between each of them, not particularly the best idea for somebody like me. But I do enjoy a challenge. Right, now I know that this should be 3 7/8 wide. And I should be able to measure in 5/8. So if I've got a pencil here, I am going to measure from the edge of my DSP, my Designer Series paper. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to do 5 from this side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm down with another 5 down here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 5 from this side as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I've got these, then I should be okay. Sorry, what I did forget to tell you is when you stamped your lady, this one here, if you didn't want to do the fussy cut cat like I have, you could stamp the cat on there, so that when you slice this, he will finish up sitting down partly in here and partly in that one as well. So that way you would avoid the fussy cutting. Right, now let's see how I get on with this. So what I want to do is I want to line this one with these 2, this one with these 2, which is very, very close, possibly a bit too close. So what I'm going to do, and I also want to leave about 5/8 down there, which I'm just going to guess that that looks about the same as that one. Okay, so if we move this one over slightly. Oh no, that's about right. Okay, so I can just about see my pencil marks here. Where's my paper piercer? I'll bring this up to show you. Okay, so have a look at the gap that I've got between, oops, did have. that's going to keep moving, but well, let me just show you the idea. I'm doing this edge so it's lining up with this exposed very slightly, and also this side so that that's exposed very slightly. The point is I need to be able to erase those two, rub them out, which is why I've left them a little bit over. So let's do the first one. I'm not such a perfectionist that I need to use a set square or anything like that to do this. Right, so making sure that this is about the same as this, and then making sure that this edge is lining up with those two. Yes, I think that's okay. And then I'm going to take this one now. What I'm going to do is line up with those two, hopefully leaving me with enough space to use my eraser, and then getting it so I've got a nice little gap coming down here. In fact, my ring gets in the way, so I'll turn that round. I think I want a slightly bigger gap than that. That's better. Just make sure it's straight. Make sure that that gap looks straight as it's coming down. I think that's okay. So now I'm going to remove those pencil marks, and that one looks as if it's quite a bit different from that, doesn't it? Let me just tip this up to see it. From the 3, that's down to there. From the 3, 1 in front of the quarter. 1 in front of the quarter. No, that's okay. I must have just put the pencil mark in the wrong place. There we go. So now it's just a question of putting the other 6 on. Okay, so I'm trying to leave the same gap that I've got in there as I've got into that one there. And of course trying to do straight lines. I think that's okay. Let's do the one by the side of her then. There we go. I think that's good. Can you imagine how long this would take if I did the big card for the video? I think that might be going up slightly. more like it. I don't push them down hard until I'm happy that they're all in position correctly. Alright, is that okay? I think that needs to come up slightly. Yes, I'm sure that's fine. Okay, and then the cat that's been fussy cut, which is already here, with his dimensionals on the back. And the other thing that I did with him is, because I couldn't really get any dimensional on the back on the end of his tail, and I don't like the little bits that stick up that might get damaged on a card. You know, if somebody catches the end of that bit. There we go. So I just put a little bit of Tombow on it so that I can push it down to stick down. There we go. Where do we want him to go? About there? Her, rather. So just give the tail a bit of pressure to make sure it sticks down. There we go. So then the last thing I need to do is the ribbon. Now the ribbon I'm going to use for this is our Shimmer Ribbon. Let me just clear myself a space. I'm getting a little bit jumbled up here. And I'm going to use Stays On ink. I haven't been able to find out much about Inchies, but the one thing that I have seen is that Stays On is better for this. I have used our Archival ink. These are different ribbons that I've been trying. There's that one there. This is all with Stays On. And on that one, I tried the other side as well. And this is our, what was this one called? Can't remember. But it's a really, really soft ribbon. When I first saw it, it looked as if it was going to be quite coarse, but it is brilliantly soft. And it's taken the ink beautifully too. And this is a Shimmer Ribbon. That's one that I did in pink. And it looks like I've already... Oh, this was my first sample, wasn't it? The first one, this one here on the left hand side, is what I did on Stays On. And then the Archival, our Archival ink, it worked, but it just seemed to bleed a little bit. Now that could have been because I had more ink on that one than when I did that one. But I did see that you should use Stays On, so that's what I do. Now all I did was I took my stamp. Again, this is going to be one of those difficult ones because I really need to get my head over it. How far can I lean forward without? So just give it a press and lift up. And there we go. Slightly crooked, but never mind. Isn't that lovely? Something different. So all I do then to attach this is I get my ribbon scissors, cut it off, bring this piece back. This ribbon is actually Pool Party, but the design series paper is Soft Sky, but you can get away with putting the two together. Right, so I'll take some fast views and just put a little bit down this side there, a little bit down the side there, and then I want my ribbon to be halfway between there and for the happy birthday to be centred. I just pop that on like that, get one end folded around, and then I put my card on my grid paper, line that up so it's nice and straight up there, and this ribbon here is right on that line there. So as long as my card is straight, then I know that I've got to fold it over just there. Just double check that. No, I've gone a bit too high, so let's just pull that down a little bit. That should be, oh no, that looks really wonky now. Let's do that straight. But I should do it this way, shouldn't I? If I line that one up there, make sure that's straight. Oh, I've done it now, haven't I? That is straight. Doesn't look like it to me. Does that look crooked? There's only one way to find out that, isn't it? This side looks as if it's coming down. That's 1, 2, nearly 3. 1, 2. Oh. See what I mean? I can't see a straight line, truly. Right, I'm going to cut the excess off of there. We don't need that. Now I'm going to glue this onto my card. I'll use Tombow. You can use Fast Fuse. Once I've put my card together, I do tend to put 2 clothes pegs on that bit there to hold it down. Right, let's take my cat for the inside and do him upside down, her. Always called animals and things, hims. Him or he. There we go. So there we go, that's today's project. I just want to show you 2 other ways that I did that ribbon quickly, just to give you a couple of ideas. This one was, I like this way, and what I did was I just layered a piece of the shimmery white cardstock onto a piece of Pool Party cardstock, and then I wrapped the ribbon around that, and then I popped that up onto dimensionals. So I thought that looked quite nice. The very first one I did was this one, and I did a similar sort of thing to this, but the paper, the cardstock. What did I use for this one? This is vanilla, but no, it's not, it's Whisper White. So that was Whisper White on, I think that's Blushing Bride, and then I wrapped the ribbon around that, and I also put some pearls on there. So there we go. There's some my ideas very loosely on what used to be Inchies. There's that one as well. There will be pictures of all of these on my blog, and flowers. You can choose any image that you want, but it was a lovely exercise to do. I hope you give it a try. Many thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments to make, especially if you know anything about Inchies, I would love to hear them. You can leave them in the comments box below the video, or you can email me at janb@janbcards.com. Underneath the video you will see on the right hand side there's two little arrows. If you click on the second arrow, that will open the box up, so that will be where you can put comments. That's where you'll find the 24/7 online link to my Stampin' Up shop if you'd like to purchase any of the products that I featured here today, not the Inchies obviously. And also in the box below you will find all the measurements and all the products that I've used. Measurements, everything. And finally, if you've enjoyed my video and you'd like to be notified every time I upload a new one, please click on the subscribe button. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.